Okay, y'all. So this is going to be one of the most fun podcasts because I am going to get to know Hilary a little bit better. She's probably going to get to know me a little bit better. And in the, process of it all, you guys get to really know Hilary. So fun story how Hilary and I connected is if you go over to Hilary's Instagram handle right now, and I know you're on TikTok and all of the things, if you go over there and say, Balanced by Hilary, if you go check out her Instagram, you will see that this woman is super famous. She has literally been featured in People magazine and all of the fun things, which we're going to get to know here in a second. But the cool part is Hilary and I live like, what, not even 5 miles apart, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is so trippy that neither one of us, like, when did you find out about me?
So this is funny. I was thinking about this because I feel like how I came across it was definitely Instagram. And I don't know how I came across your Instagram, but it was one of those things I recognized. Maybe you were golfing at the country club or something. And I was like, that's the golf course. Like, it was like one of those things that I realized you were local. And I don't even know, like, I just followed you. I didn't even know what you did or anything. It was just literally the golf. And I was just like, this woman lives in my town. And I don't know about you, but for me, like having an audience and a business where I connect with women all over the world, I'm kind of bad about networking locally. And I don't mean to be that way, but it's just, I connect with so many women that then when I see somebody else who has a business or, connects with an audience all over the world, I'm like, that's so weird. You do that too. It's kind of a different life, And so
That
I have
is
no idea.
that is exactly what I thought about you. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, someone who understands my world, who lives in the exact same town as me. And there's not
Yeah.
very many people that do like, you guys will find out in 2 seconds. Like, we do something completely different. However, I'm assuming once we actually get started, it's probably very fucking similar, except for
Yeah.
mine is for
Yeah.
business and Hilary's is for food. But I
Yeah.
actually find that it's so interesting. So when I saw that you had this like big audience, I saw that you were featured in People magazine, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, she and I, this is the craziest thing. So I was out for dinner with a couple of my girlfriends. I think my girlfriend Leah Thorvalson and we went to Skin's Christmas party. And there was this cute girl. So we were over at our favorite restaurant. So if you guys live here locally in Arkansas, you know that we have this awesome restaurant in Little Rock. And so we went to the Skin Christmas party where we get our Botox and, all of that fun stuff. And so we went out for drinks after. And I think my husband joined us because he was for like in a YPO meeting or whatever. And we're sitting in this like little area and it's really dark outside. And there's this cute girl over there taking like photos and all the things. Well, so the next day I get on IG and I was like, holy shit, Hilary, you were at the Skin event. You were downtown. I was like, oh my God, that was you. I wish I would have known because I would have come and said hi. Because right now, Hilary and I have like never even met in person and we live like literally minutes from one another. And so I just sent her a message last week and I was like, we just need to do a podcast together because I want my audience to get to know you more and I would love to get to know you more. So you guys just are joining us today for a get to know each other type of podcast.
I love it. It is so funny when you sent me that. I was like, yep, that was me. I was definitely there. And I love Petite and Keat. That's like our favorite.
Oh my God. Well, Stephanie Key, she's like one of my girlfriends. She was supposed to come to one of my retreats one time. And funny enough, I had a retreat literally like January, like, no, pardon me. It was like February 1st. And she was so fucking sick. And then come
Oh
to find
no.
out COVID was like a minute later. So she probably had COVID. It was one of
Yeah.
those things, but Steph and I are good friends. And yeah, it was just one of those crazy things. So I'm so excited that we're actually doing this.
Me too. Super
So
pumped.
yeah. So tell my audience, like, before we kind of dive into it, like, I really want to start from the beginning because I think your story is truly incredible. To be featured in People magazine, which I want to hear how that fucking happened too. But to be featured in People magazine, obviously there's some good things, but tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Hilary Downey, and I am a fat loss coach for women. I help them, break up with fad dieting, like extreme restrictive dieting, and create more of a balanced diet where they can eat pizza and they can drink wine and they can enjoy food and enjoy life, but still create like their dream body, like transform, shed body fat, build muscle, all of that. So it's really all about balance and teaching women a framework for doing that. And a huge part of what I do, I have a degree degree in nutrition, but I also have a degree in psychology. So a huge part of what I do is not just help women change their relationship with food, but honestly just transform their overall mindset, their habits, their lifestyle, to create a balance and to undo some of their self-sabotaging behaviors, because ultimately anyone can follow a diet. But, if you can't sustain what you're doing and you haven't truly changed your mindset and your daily habits, you'll gain the weight back. Cause so we're really big on sustainable weight loss approach, and enjoyable weight loss. We just like to have fun. I mean, that's, that is a huge part of our framework. So yeah, so I help women do that. And as far as my story goes, this all happened for me because I had in my first pregnancy, I gained a significant amount of weight. And after I gave birth to him, I thought like, oh, it'll just fall off. It's baby weight. And I guess I should have known like gaining 70-ish pounds, like that's not how it works, but I was naive. I was young. And so when I gave birth to him, I thought like, well, why isn't this just falling off? And ultimately, I started gaining weight, and I was like, okay, well, this is not good. And I had watched my mom fad diet my whole life, like doing like really crazy. Like she's a part of my business. She's my biggest success, story. And that's how we got featured in People, which we can talk about. But I had watched her fad diet and do all of this really extreme restrictive stuff and be at war with her body my whole life and just yo-yoing around. And so when I wanted to lose the weight and feel good, I just knew I needed to take an approach that was healthy for myself. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything that told me I can't go out for margs and Mexican food or anything like that. And I wanted to do it right for my kids also. I just wanted to be a good example of somebody who took care of themselves and was healthy and balanced about it, not obsessive, which is ironic then because it became my business. So there's a level of obsession there, right? But good obsession for sure. And so, yeah, I lost the weight with him following what is now like a lot of people call it like macro counting diets. This was before it was really mainstream. It was more like bodybuilders were doing it. And I followed this approach where basically you could eat, whatever you want so long as it fits within your macros, which we can dig into that. I don't know if you want to talk about that part, but that's the framework, basically. And I lost the weight with him, had a second pregnancy, and it was a much more healthy pregnancy. And there's all kinds of other stuff in there, exercising and whatnot. But ultimately, at the end of it all, people were asking me, how did you do this? I was sharing my journey a little bit on Snapchat. This is like the weirdest part of it all, on Snapchat. I was like so scared to put myself out there and share this. I'd never been healthy. So I was like a chain smoker, typical like college kid, binge drinking, eating, junk food prior to my pregnancy. And so to then be like, well, I'm going to be this healthy, fit mom, I had so much imposter syndrome around that. And I was like, so much fear of what people were going to think. And so I was very quiet about it at first. And so I was like kind of sharing on like Snapchat what I was doing. And ultimately, it did end up kind of picking up, like I was sharing in like Facebook groups and things, mom groups. And ultimately, it just kind of transitioned to where I started sharing it more publicly. Women were asking me, how did you do this? How did you do this? And from there, I realized I absolutely love teaching and coaching other women through how to do this. And my business was born. My social media platform was born. This was like a decade ago. So I feel like
I was going to say, how long ago was this?
This was my oldest is 10 now. And I was sharing right after I had him, but ultimately I didn't really take off with the sharing. I did transition to Instagram. Again, this was before like stories. This was before, like, that's why I was sharing on Snapchat because there wasn't stories. It was feed posts or lives. That was it. And this was when it was weird to see people like walking around, like holding their phone out in front of them. You would like look at people like, that's so weird. But I was doing that with a lot of fear, but I was doing it. And so, yeah, that was like really like 8 years ago that I really, really got into it and took my first client. I was like, well, I guess I'll just charge you a couple bucks and we'll just test this out. I mean, I had no game plan. I hadn't even gone back to school for my degree yet. I had my psych degree pretty much finished at that point, but I went back to school to tack on my nutrition degree. I didn't know anything about business. I knew nothing. I was like, I know that I love helping women and I'm just gonna start. That's really all there was to it. That's it.
No, I love that because I actually think that, that's the whole premise of everything that I kind of talk about is just like make a true decision, right? Just like make the decision. And then like most people don't know, Hillary and our stories are very similar to a lot of people that I've worked with in the past and still currently to this day, like people always ask me like, how did I get into this? And it was just like, so fucking organic. It was like I transformed my life and I was obsessed with helping people do the exact same with theirs. And I was very similar to you. I remember like my very first one-on-one client, I think it was like $200. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And like, how lucky am I? And just trying to figure it out, right? Like, I think that that's the whole thing. I think so many people think that there's just this magical formula and that is just gonna, I don't know about you, but are you like one of those people that just fucking cringe at how everyone makes this seem like so easy that you'll be making millions overnight?
I just can't with all of that. I'm like, "Oh, if that was the case, I would have been rich a long time ago," you know? But yeah, I mean, you kinda just I realized I had to just take messy action, I waited. I did kinda wait, like, I wanted to start quite a bit before, and I was like, "Man, I see other people with less, like, street cred," and I try not to compare and stuff, but ultimately, you're looking around, and I'm like, "I see other people that are boldly taking action towards all this. What am I doing? Like, I have this great skill set. I love what I do. I know I can help people and teach them that formula that people aren't really, doing yet, especially not your average stay-at-home mom. So like, I've got to jump on this. And I took messy action towards it. I just had to. But yeah, there's definitely no get rich overnight with any of it.
No shit. It just bothers me so much because it makes so many people want to quit. I was listening. Do you listen to like Andy Frisella by chance?
Yes.
Love
Yeah.
I love Andy Frisella. And one of the things
Yeah.
that he said in this podcast that I was listening to yesterday when I was driving is like the number one thing I see is that so many people think it's supposed to be easy that it makes them quit on their dreams. It makes them quit on that amazing thing that they might be able to bring to the world. Like, I'd love to kind of hear kind of all of the, all of your stories about people that you've helped and, great things like that. But it's like, had Hillary not just decided to start when she felt like who was she to do this? Like taking that messy action. Think about how many hundreds of women that you've worked with that would not be in the place that they are today. And I feel the same about myself. And like, if you're listening to this and there's something on your heart that God is like, just slapping you over the head and you're not doing it or you quit too early because it's hard. Like, what are we doing, guys? Like, this is the reason why Hillary is doing what she's doing and what I do, what I'm doing. Like, it is about that one person that you can help. And if you don't think about that one person and you're so concerned with it being this like massive thing down the end of the road, like you'll never fucking get there. It starts with one. I always tell my clients it starts with $1. You don't get to $1,000,000 without one fucking dollar or one
No,
human.
absolutely not. And I do say like people are always like, "Oh, you have so many followers and all this." But I will say like even with a small following, I feel like I still provided just as much value. There's always like there's one person, even if there's one person that needs to hear it, that needs your help. I mean, that's super valuable. So I think sometimes too, the whole big audience and all of that gets like way more credit than it deserves. I mean, it's cool, right? To reach people and share your message, but definitely in business, I mean, I was doing well with less followers too. So you don't always need all of that either.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, one of my biggest success stories, one of my clients, she had like a $300,000 month and she had less than 2,000 followers. So I was just
Yeah.
like, there you fucking go, guys. The following does not mean anything. It's profitability. So, what were you doing before you started this business?
Well, I was a college, so yeah, I mean, I was in college,
Oh,
got
this is
pregnant with.
right out of college. Like, so you had your son super how old are you?
Well, okay, so I'm 33 now. I
Oh my
had
God, you're
him,
so young. I love it.
Yeah, so I got pregnant with him when I was 23 in my last semester of my psych degree. Like last semester, like it was literally this time of year, and I was like, "Man, I think I have the flu." And it was a total surprise. And so I actually immediately like left school. I was at UCA, like left school to like go through this pregnancy and have him. And I had just been getting ready to prepare to apply to UAMS. I wanted to be a neurobiologist. It's so crazy. I kind of wanted to go to med school. Like I had all these different things I wanted to do. I wanted to work like in a lab, not with people. Like with my psych degree, I wanted to do research. Like I didn't want to work with people, I wanted to be in a lab by myself, like all this. So it's so ironic then that I did use the psychology degree, but I used it to work with people. But yeah, I was in college, stopped to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my kids. And when my youngest, or sorry, yeah, my youngest, who is 8, when he got to the age where, I could put him into Mother's Day out and I could kind of start working on myself and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I was like, there is no job in this world that I want to go to every single day except for like owning my own business, being my own boss, getting to make my own hours and do what I want to do and teach what I want to teach the way I want to teach it. So I'm going to create my own business, online social media. I did go back to school because I had to finish that semester and I wanted to be an actual, like, I had learned so much about nutrition, but I wanted to be an expert. I wanted to be able to say, like, I have the degree, I have like the expertise. And so I did get my nutrition degree as well, did like some internship and whatnot. And so I finished school. But while I was in school, I was building this online social media business, which was very funny because my professors, older, are like, you need to have a backup plan, girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, like I really think like this can be my job for the rest of my life. And so much doubt, so much that's not a sustainable business and all of this. And so I almost went all the way. With my like you can go through and become like a registered dietitian, and that's really for a lot of women want to be like in a clinical setting, and I almost did it because I thought that's what I had to do. And ultimately I made this decision at the last minute. It's funny, I got COVID, I was in my internship at Auburn, remote like internship, and ultimately I just had this like whole wake up call of like, no, like I'm going all in on the business. And I like told my advisor, who I absolutely loved, I said thank you for this opportunity, but I am gonna just bet on myself right now and go all in on this business, and never looked back. So yeah, that's kind of how it all built up for me.
So it was like that moment you just made the decision, like
Oh,
line in the
100%.
sand. Line in the sand.
100%.
I love that. I just think you guys, I really want you to hear this, is she just decided. Like I say this all the time. It's just a matter of just deciding. I think so many people use the word decision like, "Oh, I've made a decision." But then like when bad things happen or like adversity comes up, people are like, "Oh, like a true decision is burn the fucking bridges. I'm going to figure out how to make this work." And I'd love for you to kind of tell us like what was like that. So you were getting your degree and you were building up your social platform at the same time. So you were just like willing to put yourself out to the world. So tell people how you actually did that, because one of the biggest things that I see is people are so afraid to actually put themselves out there. Like they feel like they have to know every part of everything in order to just start. And that's never the case.
Definitely not. I think the biggest thing for me was I am a personal brand. So a big part of building my business was sharing my story and what I was going through. I mean, that is how my business started. Was I was telling my story and I was sharing this pain point that I knew so many women have, and I was sharing how I overcame it. So that was a big part for me. And then as far as just going all in on the business side of it and making the decision to just take off, I had this whole moment of like, I've just got to create some systems and, provide a service for women to help them learn how to do this. And so, as far as putting myself out there, I just started for one, I took my first few like free clients, super cheap clients, and I started sharing how I was helping them with these exact same pain points. And, honestly, just documenting. Social media is a huge part of my business, like documenting what their struggles were and how I was helping them work through and overcome and, create solutions for these common obstacles. And so that was a huge part of it, was honestly just showcasing these pain points and showing that there are solutions out there, because so many women, in the weight loss space feel hopeless. It's like, I've tried it all, I've done it all, none of it works. I'm broken. It must be me. And, showing them, no, women with that exact same mindset, with the exact same struggles, they felt that way too, but look at them now. And so very much a matter of, testimonials for the struggles that they were having and just putting it out there. I mean, I just kind of had to share it the same way you see advertisements anywhere. It's the same thing, just sharing how you're helping people make those changes.
Quick question, because one of the things that I always talk about is, as the coach space that I exist in, I always say I deal with both strategy and mindset, because I don't believe that you can do one or the other. I have a lot of clients that are just with me for personal, and then a lot of my clients, I'd say it's about 75% of my clients are with me for business and personal. And I always say I may be one of the only people, but I always say I do not do just one, because I don't believe that you can exist with just as a business or just personal. I just don't think it's humanly possible. And I always say it's strategy and mindset. So in the nutrition space, where do you, or in like, helping people transform their bodies, how much do you think it is food and how much do you think it's mindset?
It's like 90% mindset, 10% food. I will say it is food, the food piece I just want to touch on really quickly, because you are bombarded with so much nutrition information, and now there's this diet, and for every study that tells you one thing's bad, there's another that tells you it's good. And so being able to filter through all of that and understand for the, average woman, that's very difficult. So there is the part where there's the framework where we are learning literally just how to eat in a balanced way, which is so simple. It's so simple, but again, when you're overwhelmed with all the information, it's tough. But ultimately, at the end of the day, 90% of what I do is use my psychology degree, not my nutrition degree. So mindset is everything. And we see there are there's different women that have different struggles. A lot of women, it is a confidence issue where they have never been able to follow through on the diets that really failed them, but ultimately they feel like they failed. They've never been able to keep promises to themselves. So they don't have any confidence in themselves. So we got to build that up. There are also women who are, very black and white thinking, right? If I'm not, completely on it, doing it 100%, then I, may as well do nothing. Just a lot of black and white thinking. And so, yeah, we've got different types of women within our program that kind of hit on these different things. And ultimately we have to unlock, and we do that from the very beginning, unlock what it is that's keeping them stuck, mentally, that is holding them back. Because if we don't do that, then the rest of the framework, it's like, you may as well not.
Exactly. She just hit the nail on the head, guys. Like, confidence is everything, and like the black and white thinking. And that's just really reprogramming the way that you've always thought, to reprogram what actually serves you, because everyone is so different and everyone kind of has like one or two things that are keeping them stuck. And unless you're reprogramming that, you're just going to repeat that, right? Like, unless you change, nothing's going to change. And that comes to business, that comes to mindset, that comes to nutrition. It's all of it. So when you first started, how did you actually first start? Because I want people to always get tangible. So when you first started, were you just doing one-on-one coaching, or were you doing group coaching? Did you hire a coach right off the bat? Like, what did you do in order to kind of figure out what worked best for you?
Yeah. So I've been in business 8 years, or coaching for 8 years, and I did not hire my first coach until last year. So I had a whole,
Holy shit. No way. Really? You
yeah,
did it all by yourself and you
yeah,
just like fucking figured it out through. Oh my God.
yep.
Good for you. Would you have done that again?
No, because well, I mean, gosh, I mean, I'm happy it happened the way it did. It happened for
Yeah.
a reason, but
Yeah.
ultimately, no. I very much, and I see my clients say the same thing, right? Like, oh, I could have gotten there. I probably could have gotten there a lot faster. I'm very greedy, and so like I don't back down. I won't give up. I had many times I feel like I fell on my face, and so maybe I could have avoided some of that. And I do feel like there are times where I don't get down on myself about it, but I'm like, man, I could be a lot further along if I had like hired help. But No, I'm glad it went the way it went, but yeah, I could have moved things along quicker for sure. But yeah, I hired my first coach a year ago. Up until that point, I was totally figuring it out on my own. I did start with one-on-ones, of course. I feel like most people do. And once like I created everything, gosh, like I'm like literally having flashbacks. I created everything in Google Docs and just shared it and through email, like everything was set up through email. I had a Facebook group and things like that. And then eventually we realized once we kind of figured out like a framework, like, okay, in week one, we focus on this. And once we figured out that there was like the framework started to come together. And I say we, at this time I was totally by myself. But my mom was my first client. She lost 110 pounds at 60 plus using the exact same framework that I had used. She was my first client. So she was kind of always there, like helping me think through some of these things even before. Now she works for me, but even before that, like that's how we were doing it. And so I was just, I figured out I could take that and I could create group programs. And this is when like group programs were kind of starting to surface, I guess, like 5 years ago. My timelines might be a little fuzzy there, but we realized we could create a group program where we dripped out the content on a larger scale to more women. I mean, it's so like looking back, it was just again messy action.
I'm
Such a
so
hot
proud, like, I'm so
mess.
grateful that you're sharing
Yeah.
this because I think everyone thinks that everyone else has it figured out and I remember this, like, I have shared this with my clients, and I think I've shared it on podcasts before. I literally remember I hired so my brother and his girlfriend were living with us, like, when I first started this business, and I remember I hired her because she, like, wasn't working at the time. I think I paid her, like, 15 bucks an hour, and plus she was living with us, and
Yeah.
so I remember at like my literally like my kitchen table, she sat across from me, I sat across from her, and we were creating all sorts of fucking shit. Like my very first course, I shot it in like a living room. Like it was just, you guys, that's how you fucking start. You just start. And my first course, I think, sold like 20 courses, by the way, just so everyone is very clear. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
made like $2,000 and it probably cost me 10. Yeah, it was like one of
Yeah.
those things.
100%. Our first group was like super small. But yeah, I mean, I figured out like I could do our lives, on Facebook group and oh my gosh. So we just, yeah, we ran with that. And then eventually we kind of scaled onto like an app where we could run it like on an app instead of on Facebook. And yeah, we've kind of taken it from there. We're actually in the middle of burning it down to build it back up right now. So I won't even tell you what a messy action that is, but we have help helping us do that now. And that's what I wish I would have done a long time ago is just really help us build it all up. But ultimately, I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't have ever started if I hadn't done that. I had to just do it and learn it. But I mean, I was just really paying attention to what other people in my field that were online were doing and literally just kind of mimicking it. I mean, it was obviously my own framework, but I saw like, okay, people have like some coursework, they do calls, and because with one-on-ones, I hit a breaking point. I remember having like a meltdown at Christmas and being like, oh my, like I cannot do this anymore. I loved one-on-ones, but I've got to be able to scale this. I'm never going to be able to, have this be an actual business where I can sustain it. So, yeah, I mean, we rolled with it, but we waited way too long to get help for sure.
So how does the program work now? Because I want people to like, obviously know about the program and like how does someone work with you and all of those things.
Yeah, so right now we have 2 things. We have a high level coaching, it's our elite coaching, and that is a mixture of group and one-on-one. So you're in a group, we do like group calls, but we also do once a month a one-on-one like feedback opportunity where I review your food logs and all of that. And so it's kind of just like a hybrid of all the things. There's a course, that's our framework. It's super in depth and it's got the mindset stuff, it's got the nutrition stuff. And so we're working alongside you, very high touch, very a nice mixture of you get the group like social learning, aspect and group support, but then you also have the high touch one-on-one. So that's our elite coaching. And then we also have a membership. It's Balance Babe Academy, and that is more DIY, learning our framework, but also in a group setting where you do have, that support. We do fun things like challenges. Like for February, we're doing a love yourself care challenge. So we're really focused on self care, So each month we kind of have a focus in there, which is really fun and keeps you motivated and inspired. Cause it's once you get going in a journey like this, it's very easy to kind of just start, getting bored with it. So we keep it fun and exciting. Like I said at the beginning, we like to have fun. So that's it. We've got a membership and then more of a high level coaching program, but it is all getting burned down. So the time this airs, I don't know. No, we will still have our membership and that option as well, but we'll have some other things too.
So I'd love to hear about that. So like how did you decide to burn it down? I think that this is a huge like, oh my gosh, good thing you do have a coach now because I'll be honest with you, like mentally this has got to be so fucking hard.
Yeah, and this has been a journey in itself of, figuring out because now we've kind of done it all. We've done one-on-ones, we've done groups where everybody starts on the same date. We've done groups that are more evergreen, which is people enrolling all the time. I mean, I think I needed to do it all to see what works for my life. And so in terms of burning it down, what I kind of just realized is we had our most profitable couple of months, which is absolutely awesome. This is a very tough thing that I'm even saying. I haven't even talked to this is really new, fresh for me. Okay. So I'll just tell you, I
I'm
went
going to
away.
share a story with you after because I actually feel
Okay.
like I did what you're doing last year
Okay.
and
Okay.
I'm through it, so I will tell you it's the best fucking thing I've ever done. But go ahead, finish your story.
Yeah, well, we went to the river this weekend up to the White River to go fishing, and I like needed that so bad because I had to get out. My office is in my house, and like I just was like trying to make this really hard decision. And it's so funny because I didn't even go really looking for this, but ultimately we created this coaching system and we had the highest profits, like just absolutely amazing. And I looked at my mom, who, like I said, works with me, and I said, this works, but it also does not work. I do not like, I don't know how we're going to continue this. Like, I'm running myself into the ground. And I am at a point right now in my business where, like, I have like outside help with certain things. But ultimately, in my business, I want to keep it between my mom and I as much as possible. I'm not looking to hire, like, just for right now. That's a decision that I've made. And so I was like, this doesn't work. Like, does it work on paper? When we look at the bank, does it work? Yes. But I chose entrepreneurship because I wanted to love my everyday. I mean, let's be real, not every day is, you're going to have your moments, right? But ultimately, I wanted to love my everyday. I'm PTO. I was PTO president last year. This year, I'm vice president. I want to be at all my kids' stuff. I want to be able to take off and go to Little Rock and go shopping for the day. My fiance lives in Fayetteville. So we have this really split time, split life. I have my kids half the time. So I envisioned crafting this life. And when I was looking at the coaching systems and things that we set up in the business, I'm like, this doesn't fit. This is not fitting. So ultimately, it's funny. I went looking for something else, just help with like some annual planning. And what I ended up stumbling upon was what I needed more than anything, which was a business strategist who was helping me or is helping me now create my offers to fit my life so that I'm not running myself into the ground, but can still do my high touch because I love that. I love coaching. I never want to be disconnected from that, but is helping me create offers that fit my life, helping me with my positioning and things like that. And also just some funnels and things to make my life easier because I do want to keep it between my mom and I as much as possible. So, yeah, I mean, it's the scariest decision. I'm not gonna lie. I was having a mental cry. My poor fiance, he's like, oh my gosh, because I'm like, we're doing it. We're 100% doing it. And then I'm like, oh no, we can't do this. This is the scariest business investment I've ever made. No, we're doing it, and I've made some big business investments. So I'm used to that, but this is by far the scariest. And so I know in my heart it's the right thing. It's what I should have done a long time ago. I was trying to get by on like little things to fix the problem. And I'm an expert at what I do, but I am not an expert at business. Yes, I've been able to figure stuff out and take my business from 0 to 6 figures without any help, any capital, anything. But ultimately, I don't know, and I don't want to know. I don't want to figure it out. I want to do what I'm good at. And I want somebody to tell me how to do the other part, but also to help me craft it to fit my life. So that's where we're at.
I'm so proud of you. That's so cool. I've been helping a lot of clients with that lately. I just think that one of the things, like when a client starts to work with me, I tell them there's just like two things that matter to me. Number one, do you absolutely love what you get to do? Like you have to love what you get to do. And if it gets a person a result, like whatever it is, like if you're a coach or if it gets the person what they need, then you can figure out anything from those two things. Like I fucking will never, doesn't matter how much money someone pays me, I will never help someone do something that they fucking cannot stand. One of the biggest things to me, and I think like for me, it was like when I know you don't know a ton about me, but when I was like 27, I didn't know if I wanted to end my life. Like it's just very much like I was so miserable and I had everything you can possibly imagine. I had the looks, I had the job, I had the money, I had the husband, I had all of the things. And yet I was miserable. And I just refuse to allow anyone to be miserable because there is a way to actually enjoy what you do, actually love your life. Like I will say, there's probably not a happier person than me because I decided every single day. I choose joy every single day. I choose having a life that I'm obsessed with. Now, does that mean that there's not shit going on and I sometimes want to cry and I get overwhelmed? Yes. But 80% of the time, I will guarantee you there's not a person on the planet that enjoys their life more than me. And I want that for all of my clients. And there is always a way. If you believe in something so deeply, and God has put this on your heart to do, there is a way to do it. And so I'm so proud of you for choosing that because it is so hard to do. I remember last year when I just strictly went to a one-on-one, like I only do one-on-one coaching, and every person in business will tell you that the option that I have chosen is the wrong option. And for such a long period of time, I was so afraid to do it because I was like, this amount of revenue and like what are people going to think and all of the things. And it's so interesting. This year I've seen so many people basically make a decision that I made about a year and a half ago or a year or so ago. And I'll tell you, my revenue hasn't changed that much and I am fucking so happy. And yes, I don't have a traditional business in the fact that like I couldn't sell my business tomorrow. I am my business, but I choose my joy, I choose my happiness, and I choose my clients every single fucking time. And it's the best decision I've ever made. So congratulations you for doing the hard thing. And it's gonna work because you're choosing that. It's just there is a way. And so I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely is one of those things I was like, you know, all the decisions I've made so far, they haven't really been scary. Like like it's been like a hard, maybe like a tough decision, like, oh, I'm gonna go with this. But like this is the kind where I was like, am I gonna throw up? I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no, like this is like and for me, what I realized it's funny. It's more that I'm leaving my comfort zone, which is like the mind games that I had when I realized this was it. And I don't know, are you from Arkansas? You're not from Arkansas,
No,
are
I'm
you?
originally from Canada, but I've lived here for 21 years.
Okay, right. So I mean, I was born in Texas, but I'm from Arkansas. And it's so weird because I am coaching my clients through confidence. I'm coaching them through you got to get outside of your comfort zone. You've got to own that you want to lose weight and look hot and be a hot mom and all this. Like, you've got to own that. Or, like, if you stay scared of that, you're not going to go get it. So, like, we got to own it. All of a sudden, I had this like existential crisis. This is where my poor fiance was just like, oh my gosh, because like he hears all my entrepreneur stuff all the time. And you know this,
Is
like,
he an
to be
entrepreneur?
no,
No,
no, he's
okay.
not. No,
Okay.
he's not. But he, being married to an entrepreneur, in a relationship with an entrepreneur, like it takes
A
a lot.
lot.
And so a lot. And so he was definitely like, "Oh my gosh." But I had this whole moment where I'm like, "Oh, I'm not scared of the money. I'm not scared of the amount of work because it's gonna be a lot of work. And I'm not really scared of all that. I'm saying that's what I'm scared of, but what I'm really scared of is I am going to have to really put myself out there and get out of my comfort zone to take this what this business strategist and what we're going to be working on and implement it. And even though I'm on social and I'm talking about my life and all this is like a next level that I'm going to have to kind of unlock. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I have like imposter syndrome of like, I'm just this like girl from Arkansas. And like, who am I to be like, I'm going to go, have this crazy big business and grow it even bigger than it is. And like, suddenly I was like, that's what I'm actually scared of. And so I really like when I tell you it's all fresh and I've been working through it all. I mean, I woke up this morning and I saw your story, the Bible study or your
Yeah.
post, the Bible study. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, like when I needed this message, like the most, here it is. And so I've just been having lots of those all weekend, which tells me I'm moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. So for this podcast is not coming out obviously on the day that I put out that post, but if you guys go look back at my stories, and it's so funny, Hillary, I recorded that like I think last, I don't know, like maybe a week ago. I was just
Yeah.
sitting on the couch and I was just reading this and it was like, I guarantee you. So I work with like 30 clients maximum, but probably like in the last 2 weeks, there's been about like 8 clients that I've shared this like little moment with that I read this. But basically the post that Hillary's referring to is I was like doing this, like, it's a daily Bible study. It's like just a couple pages or whatever. And it talks about, and I share this with my clients for the last 6 or 7 years. Like, it's like when you know deep down that there's something that you need to do, God's just like hitting you. Like, you feel it inside of your soul. Every single person, like, whether it's a relationship, whether it's weight loss, whether it's business, whatever, it's like you have this like deep yearning inside of yourself. Like, before I started this business, fuck, I talked about starting this business for like 5 fucking years, let me tell you. But I just knew that I needed to do it. But every time you make a decision to do something that God has put on your soul, there is going to be roadblocks. There is going to be these moments where you have to jump off the cliff, not knowing if you're going to crash at the bottom. And that is God saying, like, do you trust me? He's asking you to jump. And every single time you don't jump, it's like he's going to put something there and you have to jump every single time. I always refer to a story. I had a client who literally had a 7-figure payroll, like 7-figure payroll. And I remember walking down the streets in Mexico. It was at Christmas. My clients get 24/7 access to me, and I'm messaging back and forth with him like a couple days before January 1st. And he is so afraid because he doesn't know how he's going to pay this payroll. And I was like, you have to do this thing. You have to do this thing. If you don't do this thing, and he finally did that thing. And then the next year he had like one of his greatest years in business, but it's like the fucking scariest shit every single time. So I want you all to just hear that, like, if everything feels like it's coming in your way, chances are it's the exact right thing you need to do.
Yep. I felt that 100% this morning. I was like, oh, there's the message I needed. And I believe that with all my heart.
I do too. Absolutely. Well, I'm so grateful that we did this. I'm so grateful that we've connected in this way. And also too, I think that this is really helpful. I used to preach this when I was doing masterminds all the time. I always say, like, be around like-minded people, be around people who are doing these things. Do you have a lot of like friends and people around you that are doing these big, scary things?
Yeah, I do. Not locally, of course, which there are local things. Hold on. I do want to say there are plenty of local things. It is that I have not put myself in the room locally, but I do. I have like support, I have groups and things that I'm a part of, women in business and things like that, that definitely help because all my friends are, absolutely fabulous, but the entrepreneur struggles, it's a whole different thing. And you have to be around people who are taking big risks and, because most people, are staying in their comfort zone a lot in life. And so I think that was a huge part of my wake up call was like, oh no, I've got to continue to put myself in even bigger rooms where the people that are, the things I'm aspiring to have and do, that's what everybody else is doing too. So I have some of that. Definitely going to tap into it even more in 2024.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited for you. So, now that you're burning the business down, what is the situation? How do people find you? How do they work with you? Like, I know you have your
Yes.
own podcast, you have TikTok, Instagram, you're all of the things. I love following. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so I am on all the social channels. Mainly Instagram is my jam, but definitely TikTok too. I have more fun on TikTok. I just feel like it's my one chance to get to be like a little more like not business serious, but I'm definitely on there and I do share good stuff there too. But everything is at Balance by Hilary with 1L. And my podcast it's all about balance. And we talk about all things diet, exercise, mindset, lots of pep talks. That's what we do a lot of over there.
So cool. Before we go, because we mentioned about people and I totally forgot to ask, how did y'all get featured in People Magazine? That's so
Oh
fucking
yeah,
cool.
that's right. Yeah, so there is an app that we recommend for food logging, and it's actually the one that my mom and I both used, and it's called Lose It. And I do use a different app now, but at the time when I was going through my weight loss journey, that's the app that I used, and a lot of our clients still use it. But we had like just connected with them and done some stuff, and years ago they asked us, hey, like today's show is looking to feature, a weight loss story or something. And so today's show featured it like on their website. And then they sent us a message, a couple of years, or well, that's been what, 2 years now, I guess, and said, People is doing this. It's every year they do it. It's their new, like New Year's one where they celebrate like health changes and things like that. It's called Half Their Size. And they were like, they went to feature y'all's story. They asked us if we knew anybody, and we were like, oh my gosh, Hillary and Bridget have to be the ones. And so yeah, I got to use like my photographer, which was really cool, that I've used for all my business stuff. And they featured us. And then it sent us on a media frenzy for a couple of months. We were on Access Hollywood, Good Morning America, interviewed by them. Who else? Gosh, The Doctors, which is no longer on, but that was fun. Yeah, so we had a bunch of press come off of that, which was a really cool experience and definitely helped us reach more women. But yeah, that's how it happened. It was a connection through the food blogging app that we used.
Isn't that so cool? I always say to my clients, and I believe it for myself, one touch of God's favor can change everything. And I always just like, that's one of my affirmations every single day is like, today's the day that one touch of God's favor happens. And, we're recording this on a Monday, and everyone always says that, it's on like, I'll start Monday, I'll do Monday. And I'm sure that, that's a big thing in your space as well. But that one touch of God's favor can happen anytime. A Thursday at 1 o'clock, you never
Yep.
know when the Lose It app, People Magazine's gonna call. So thank you so much for being here, you guys. Please go follow Hilary, check out her podcast, and I can't wait to follow along and see like this next level of yourself. And I'm cheering you on. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.